This is a front-end review of how I intend to use the Schuyler Quentel line. I'm calling it a front-end review because I do intend at some point, perhaps in a year's time, to come back to these Bibles and explain how I've used them and how well what I had planned to do with them actually came to pass. So this is my Allan New Classic Reference Bible that I've had for over 8 years. And it has been my Bible for everything. I got it at the beginning of seminary, and I used it throughout seminary, into my PhD program, as well as in ministry, as well as in personal study, as well as in personal or family worship and visitation, and basically for everything. And here's how I have it set up. There's no writing in it, other than these little markings. So if you look closely, that's a BC 98, BC 96. I've got a red dot there, and a red dot there, and a red dot over here. The BC, and then over here you have LBCF 8.2. The BC and the LBCF, those are the Baptist Confession and the Baptist Catechism and the London Baptist Confession of Faith, which is the confession that I confess personally. I even used some of the lined paper back here to write out just when I had time, and I never finished, but I was just writing out as I went along some of the confession as I had time and just wanted to do it. The red dots are from a personal Bible reading plan that I set up for myself, and based loosely on or actually pretty closely on the Book of Common Prayer. And so that's my main Bible, and I used it for everything, no markings. There were a couple little markings where I moved some quotation marks and, but almost nothing in it, because I wanted to be able to just look at the text and not have too much clutter. Now, because of these two, this one and this one, I decided to replace my New Classic Reference with the Schuyler Quentel Credo, Schuyler Quentel Credo, and it's called Credo because it includes in the back the Confessions of Faith, Westminster, Augsburg, the creeds as well, and it also does have the London Baptist Confession of Faith with some cross-references down here. So I suppose that's the end of my writing it out for myself, but this will basically replace that. And as I said, the reason I'm actually replacing it isn't because the New Classic Reference is bad, but because of the other two. In fact, after 8 years of regular use, I have one split there and a split near the beginning. Let's see if I can do it one-handed. There it is. Near the beginning, I have a small split there. That's it. And those aren't bad. It's still holding on. It doesn't feel loose, even though those splits are there. And so it's been a great Bible and has held up perfectly, well, almost perfectly, over all these years, going through seminary, going through ministry, reading through it. Every year, I picked up other Bibles on occasion, but in order to keep up on my daily Bible reading. But largely, this is the Bible that I used for all these years for my personal study. And I'm replacing it with this because of the matching pagination. And so, as I said, I don't really write in that one. I do use some of the ESV scripture journals to work through the text, but this wide margin will allow me to take notes on the text in the Bible while I'm working through it in my study throughout the week. And then because you get so familiar with the layout of the text and where all the verses are, and your eyes begin to get used to that, well, it's helpful because this is the same as that. They're matched in terms of the actual formatting. And so you see, here's 3 lines of Matthew chapter 3, and it's extending out, it kind of goes outward like that. Well, you have those 3 lines, and they kind of go outward. And then Here in the miniature Bible, it's called a Personal Quentel, PQR, I think. It also has it there because it's the same pagination. And that will be largely for throwing in a bag, taking with me on a pastoral visit or a hospital visit or something like that. And again, it'll match in terms of the paging, the formatting. And so if I remember, that verse that was there about God being with us, well, it was up here in that part of the page. Now we're in Matthew, and at Matthew 1, and so the pages actually do match pretty closely here. But nevertheless, if it was, buried deeper in the book, I would still kind of have a familiarity of where it's at on the page, which makes those conversations that much quicker. Something you'll notice in terms of the difference between these two Bibles, they're the same size, the NCR and the Credo, but the font between the two is the Credo is just huge in comparison. A large part is probably because these have been moved to the gutter or to the footer instead of being here in the center. But somehow they also managed to extend that quite a bit. In terms of the actual form, well, this is red on the inside here. It's got red paper there. The NCR has blue paper there, and then it's just the black leather on the inside there. All of these Credo Bibles, they all have the Jerusalem cross there and on the spine. In terms of thickness, the NCR and the Credo are about the same. You can't, maybe I could do it side by side, and then you can kind of get a sense. They're about the same size. And then in terms of the handheld one, that's what I keep calling it, the handheld one, it's about the same size as an A5 journal. So I have there my A5 daily journal planner kind of thing, and it's about that same size. And then the height of the Credo and the wide margin is about the same. Of course, the width of it, because it's a wide margin, is quite a bit different. And then the thickness of the three, well, let's actually stack them like that, and then you can get a sense of how thick they all are in comparison to one another. Again, so I'll put the Allan in there. And then there you've got all four of them that way. So again, this isn't actually a review all that much. Why spend so much money and buy 3 Bibles? Well, again, if this has lasted me 8 years and held up so well, and I've been able to use it for everything that I've needed to use it for, well, then I figure these things will also hold up for that much time. And so, yes, it is quite an investment, but it's an investment in terms of that's directly correlated to the kind of work that I do, which involves pastoral visitation and being, kind of a basic, normal Christian, and being in the Word, studying it and marking it up, and getting ready to feed others. And so it does serve all 3 of those purposes, but then it's kind of like having the same Bible 3 times over for all those things, for the sake of familiarity. And so I'm hoping that after a year, I can give an update on whether or not my plan worked. And if it does, well, then I'll be able to recommend it all the more. I don't doubt that it will. And I hope this is useful to you in terms of giving you an idea of what the Bibles look like in comparison, as well as a possible way to use them, as I've figured out that I do intend to use them this way.